There are so many options when it comes to starting a scrapbook page. There's papers and stamps, dies, embellishments. Where do you start and how do you narrow it down so you don't get stuck at this very first step? Hey crafty friends, today we are going to make a layout together, start to finish. I want to walk you through my process and show you how to narrow down your supplies so you don't get stuck in that overwhelm and not knowing what to do first. So today we are actually going to start by picking pattern paper. I have brought over some of my brand new Stampin' Up! Papers. You can see I have been using, some of these are a little cut up, which is great, but these are the newest ones that were launched at the beginning of this month. And that is usually a go-to for me. I want to use what's newest into my collection. And so these are kind of the choices I'm looking at today. Now I really love this Friends of the Ocean collection. And it has some really bright colors and it's just kind of like fun and tropical. It makes me think like vacation, and I think it has some possibilities. So once I look at a paper and decide, yeah, I'd probably like to use this collection, really love that paper, then I'm gonna go and pick my photos. So I do keep an album in my photo library where I have photos I want to scrap. And I will usually put like one from a set of photos just so I remember that's a story I haven't told yet and I do want to scrapbook it. These pictures are from a few years ago and you can look how tiny my daughter is. She's actually splashing in a water table. Now, funny story, this table has been filled with many different kind of sensory things over the last couple of years. This was the only time it was filled with water indoors. And I bet you can guess why. But she had a blast with it. And so I definitely want to scrapbook these. I've printed them as 3x4s. And so now I have paper. I think it should go pretty good because we have this kind of turquoisey blue and we have a turquoisey blue in the paper. She's wearing pink and we have oranges and let's see, I know there's some pink in here. Yes, and some bright pink, which I think will go really nice with the pink she's wearing. It's not the same tone, but really doesn't matter. There's some softer shades of pink in some of the prints as well. So I think that should go really well. So there we go. We've picked paper, we have photos, and now let's pick a sketch. Now I've brought out the Creative Design Team 12x12 sketchbook, the newest one that uses 6x6 pattern paper, because I wasn't too sure which papers I was going to go with, if I was going to be using scraps or whatnot, and I haven't really used much out of this book yet. So I wanted to flip through here first and see what I could find. Now, of course, this process is going a little bit faster because I'm filming it for you, but this is the order of things that I would typically follow. I would choose my paper, find photos that go with that paper, settle on a design. You may want to select your design, your sketch, and your photos at the same time so that you can adjust the size or make it a landscape into a portrait or vice versa. But I decided for my layout today, I wanted to use this sketch. Now, right off, you might notice something. This is a 2-page sketch. And I don't have enough photos printed to go with this. And these photos are in the wrong orientation. And that is because I am going to not do this page. I'm going to just do a single page layout because this is a really cute everyday story, but I don't feel like it needs 2 pages and to take up that much real estate in my albums. Plus I know the album for this year is already pretty full. I have 2 albums actually for this year and I'm working on a 3rd. So I got to draw the line somewhere. And oftentimes when I'm doing these kind of like everyday life sort of stories, I will limit them to 1 single page. So when I was looking through these sketches, I was kind of looking for what would make a good like single page. And then I just happened to rotate this one. And I was like, you know what? This could be a really interesting 1-page sketch. So we have piece here and a piece here of paper, and then we have 2 circles. I like how my photos are all together in like a trio across the page. I think that will be great. And then I like the circle elements breaking up all those lines, but I will also need another circle to have my visual triangle. And so my automatic reaction is to put it right here. And so I'm not sure if I want to keep the same size, or maybe I want to make a bigger circle and put my title in it. I could make a bigger circle and have some smaller circles around it and make it a little bit more of a cluster, add a couple small circles to these ones too and have like circle clusters. That is an option, but this is the general idea of what I'm going for. So it's something to keep in mind as well when you are using sketches, is that you can definitely rotate, move things around, and really make it work for your photos. If you guys want to check out the Creative Design Team sketchbooks, I will leave them linked down in the description for you. There are several different sizes for like 6 by 8, 8.5 by 11. We also have 3 sketchbooks that are all 12 by 12 designs. I just love using them because it makes my process so much easier. Okay, so next step, now that we have narrowed down what we're going to use, I can use that to inform my decision for stamps, dies, and that sort of stuff. And the reason why I decided to go for this is because the theme in her water table was like ocean creatures. So we got an octopus, we have coral and whales and rocks, and that's the kind of stuff she was playing with in here. So I figured this would go along really nicely with that. And then the colors match as well. So in the same suite of supplies as this, there is an embossing folder. It's the Soft Waves 3D embossing folder. I really love this. It gives a beautiful impression. And embossing isn't always the first thing I grab for when I'm working on a layout. Often I will reach more for embossing folders when I'm making cards. But since I'm using 6 by 6 pieces of paper, those will fit into my folder. So I could also incorporate some embossing on this layout. Now, unfortunately, I do not have the stamp or the die set that go with this collection. I really wish I did, because I love the coral and like the little seaweed that come in here. They have a really nice piercing detail. You can kind of see that soft waves there, and then you can see the details that are on the die cut pieces. So unfortunately, I do not have those to work with yet. But since I'm going in this vein of like sea creatures, I can look through my collection for what I do have. So I have this Beauty of the Deep set. It has a similar like underwater ocean sort of feel to it. And it does have some coral die cuts in there. There's also some fish stamps, which might be nice to use. We also have like some little like bubbles or splatter, however you want to use those. So I'm thinking these could probably work pretty good as embellishments for those circle clusters, because I want to kind of group my embellishments around those circles, and I can probably create like a little sort of scene with this set. Now I will need to probably bring in some sort of title. I have not come up with my title yet, but that's okay. I don't need to have that figured out right off the bat. I'm going to cut my paper and kind of get my design somewhat put together, and then I can decide on how big my title needs to be and how I'm going to make that happen. Now, the fun of working within collections is often there are coordinating embellishments. So these actually match the paper collection. I love that they are like this glassy look. There's some sparkles in them. And I think if I want to add some bling to my page, these will come in very handy with those circle clusters. So there we go. I have narrowed down my supplies. I have my design. So now we can start building. Okay, so looking through my papers, I quite often start with white cardstock, but I really love this paper. And I was thinking, I wonder if I could use this as a background. Now I am going to narrow my photo choice down to 3 photos, and I want this picture on this side so that she's facing into the layout. These ones are both kind of straight on. I think these are the 3 photos I'm going to go for. Now the sketch does have like 2 panels kind of going right here in the middle, which means I'll be covering up quite a bit of this piece. I'm kind of debating what I want to do, if I just want to have like one chunk right here, or if I want to use that Waves embossing folder through the middle. I could also add a little bit of a white border to kind of break up this pattern, just give it an ending spot. I really love how the blue pops against the pink and the orange. I think that's really fun. Now, if I wanted to save some of this paper, what I could do is just cut down strips for either side, and then in the middle, I could have my soft waves embossing folder. Okay, here we are so far. I have embossed 2 pieces of white cardstock. Thinking I might want to do some ink blending. I pulled in the Summer Splash color, which is the color that is in this collection, but it is pretty green compared to the color of my water. And then I thought Pool Party could be a good kind of halfway point. It's a little bit more blue, not quite as green, but still on the green side. And Balmy Blue is actually a very good match to this. You can see all 3 of those colors here. The Summer Splash, the Pool Party, and then the Balmy Blue. And the Balmy Blue is definitely the right blue to match the water. And then I'm trying to determine what I want to do for my circles. So I have this deckled circle set. Unfortunately, this one is sold out. It was put on the last chance list and then it's sold out. But I do like to use the things that I have in my stash. And this is like the biggest set of circles that I own with many different sizes. So I think what I want to do, the sketch calls for about this size of circle, and I think that should fit perfectly. And then for my third point, I could either go with the same size of circle or I could go bigger. Now I looked for some titling options and I found this set, Moments That Matter. It's a close to my heart set, and it has some good options. This is the Life, Little Moments That Matter. I think that's really fun. Everyday Adventure, that works as well. And it would be nice to have this all in one stamp set. So Little Moments That Matter would totally fit on here. I could go up a few sizes and have a bigger circle. And then also add some coral and other things to this title piece. So that's kind of the next thing I have to decide. And then what paper I want to cut my circles out of. We have this hexagon pattern and I thought that could be nice and a little bit calmer. Put my coral and things over top of it, especially here where it's pink. It will stand out a little bit more. But then the back side of this has this fun pattern, which I love all the different colors this brings in. And see how it kind of like brings the photos to life? I do really like that. And it would help kind of make the other colors I'm going to bring in make sense, because I want to bring in some of this like lemon lime color. So we'll try it and see. If it's too busy, I can always just flip it over and use the orange side if it's just getting to be a little bit too much. I do have a split right here where my paper is cut because I embossed this in 2 pieces, but I'm just going to make sure that I cover this when I go to put my photos on. It'll probably be, the slit will probably be just under where my photos go. I decided to go ahead and do a double matte on my photos. So I did pumpkin pie cardstock and then white cardstock. And I decided to go with the orange just because we have a lot of pink down here at the bottom. So if I went with pink, it really just blended right into the background. And I really liked the lemon lime twist color, but I want to use that in a different way on here. So if I used it as my photo mat, then I felt like it wouldn't look as good also using it for my coral. So this is the way I decided to go. And you can see I'm starting to build my circle clusters. We got a bottom one, a top one, and I could leave it as those 2, just kind of offset each other. But I thought it'd be fun to do one up here at the top for my title. So because I'm using this as like a pattern paper, I cut a smaller one in white. I really like how the edges on these dies are kind of ruffled, like they've been ripped or something like that. And then I have the little starfish pattern here. And I think this will look best if I have groups of 3 circles. So I don't really want to bring in another multicolor pattern, but I did have this one. There's some nice orange patterns that I like, but I feel like because I used orange here, I have a lot of orange going on. I'm going to go ahead and add this. You may have noticed I took away the white border. I decided I'm just going to work right on this pattern paper. I'm not going to do a white border since I have this big band of white going through the middle. I think that's enough to break up the pattern. And I love how this is coming together. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So the next step is going to be bringing in some die cut pieces to just finish building out these clusters. I decided I want to go ahead and add some ink to my embossed pieces. Hopefully this is not a mistake. I'm going to go with the Balmy blue just because it is the closest to the blue water, and there's a very small amount of the summer splash, so I think it should be fine. I'm going to bring in some scrap paper to just tap off. It's always one of those things where it's like, man, I hope this isn't going to wreck what I have because I'm really happy with it. We'll start under here, and if it's looking like I'm not liking it, I'll just stop. I do want to try and hit some of those high points of the embossing. So I'm kind of dragging my brush a little bit different than I normally would because I don't necessarily want to get it all down in the grooves. I'm trying to hit some of those high points. Okay, let's see what we got. I kind of like that. I don't want to take this too far. I'm not going to take it like right out to the edges. I just want to blend where it kind of ends. So if I can do the same thing up here, add a little bit of blue right here, and then maybe another little bit right here. So it's not the full thing, it's just little bits and pieces. Before we get any further, I just want to stamp out my title. So I'm going to take this, flip over my Versamat to the spongy side. And then I think I want to use Melon Mambo, which is the dark pink that's in this pack. And we're going to use the Little Moments That Matter title. And then I always like to do a test stamp. That looks great. Then you just have to hope that your test stamp is just as good, or your real stamp is just as good as your test stamp. Perfect. Okay, I've die cut some of that coral from the Lemon Lime Twist. And I'm going to start just making some little clusters around here. I've stuck down everything that's on here so far, but I put it down very lightly, so hopefully I can reposition as needed. This one, I thought instead of doing, like I was gonna kind of maybe tuck it under, I wasn't quite sure how to build this without it making look like it's floating in the middle of the air. So I was thinking maybe I'll just bring it right down to the bottom of the page, help it kind of feel connected to the bottom. But if I do that, I feel like I need something at the bottom to hide this because it kind of makes it look weird, I thought, just kind of sticking out there. I was looking for some other options and I found the Otterly Amazing Dies. This one I think could work really nice with this. We have some good greenery options. We have some little fish and some rocks. So I cut some rocks from a very light gray. This is linen cardstock from Close to My Heart. Very light gray. I didn't want to bring in a darker gray or a brown or something because I felt like it would just attract all the attention and I don't want to do that. So I just have like a little collection of rocks there. But while I have this set out, I was thinking I could add some greenery. So this color isn't in the collection. This is Granny Apple Green, but it's basically like a darker version of the lemon lime. I think it will go quite well. I kind of like the height that this is giving. This one I think I might want a little bit shorter, so I'm just gonna rip it down a little bit. Kind of adds a little bit different shape to my clusters, which I like. And I can always like cut them to make them shorter or whatever I need them to be. Okay, I like how this is coming together. I feel like all these clusters really need is maybe just some little fish. And then I want to add some journaling. I was thinking maybe just do some journaling on my computer and add some strips under here because this part of the layout is getting kind of full and this is looking a little bit empty. I think I stuck my photos on just a tad higher than I had meant to. I had meant to move them just a little bit lower, so I guess I could probably see if I can shift them down. I'm going to finish off my clusters with some simple embellishments. So I'm using that Utterly Amazing set for the fish, the larger ones and the smaller ones. And you can see what that's looking like here. Those are just set there. I haven't glued them down yet because I was trying to envision how I wanted everything to look. Basically, I'm just trying to spread them out in different spots, have the fish facing different directions. And the reason why I went with this instead of the more detailed stamped fish, I'm just going to use my pick tool to glue these on, is because I felt like it didn't need any more detail. I have a lot going on here as it is. And I feel like if I add, stamped fish with a ton of detail, that it's going to just get a little bit too busy. and I was really happy with how it was looking. So I wanted a little bit of life in my clusters with the fish, but I didn't want it to get too overtaken with more and more images. It's always a little bit of a balance, keeping it balanced between the two things. You want enough detail, but not too much detail, because ultimately I do want it to be about the photos and the story. And even though this isn't a big story, it's an everyday life sort of story, it was really fun to see her joy at being able to splash in the water. I was completely stressed out, remembering that, oh yeah, I have a wood floor. This isn't maybe a good idea. I had towels down, but basically I spent the whole playtime just like trying to sop up any water that made it over the edge. And that was the last time we had it as a water table inside. I do bring it outside in the summertime and turn it into a water table. But like right now, this table is in our house filled with kinetic sand. That in itself is also messy, but not as messy as having water. This pick tool really does work really great to lift everything up and stick down all those tiny little bits. I do still have my embellishments. I don't know that I need to add anything else because I did these in peach pie glitter paper. I feel like that added enough sparkle. I could maybe add a couple around. Let's just try it and see how it looks. And if it adds or takes away, these are very sticky. I'm hoping that I can remove them if I don't like them. I went back and forth on it, but I did decide to go ahead and add those gems to my clusters. I used the blue color, and I think they add just an extra nice little bit of sparkle and the look of bubbles. They especially help fill out this little cluster where I didn't cut another circle. I'll hold them up close and hopefully you can see the glitter in them. They're really pretty. They are kind of transparent, so you don't really see the true color unless it's on top of white. There's all my little glitter fish. I did pop up my title. Everything else on this layout is flat except for my title. I felt like it needed some distance from that background. You can see even those tiny, tiny little fish. I just love all that detail. And then I typed up, printed out, and then cut my journaling into strips. Super happy with how this turned out and that I got to use this pretty paper. If you enjoyed this layout and you want some more ideas of how to get started with your pages, go ahead and click on this playlist here. And I will see you again very soon with another video.